Welcome into today's Saints Now video. Before we break down free agency, some draft rumors, and all that fun stuff in between, you have 20 seconds right now. I'm starting my timer on my watch. You have 20 seconds to go and subscribe for free. After 20 seconds, it's not free anymore. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. We're making changes here at Chat Sports, so I need you to go down and subscribe right now. You have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you for subscribing. Let's break down today's show. Let's talk about signing Dalton Risner. So Brad Spielberger of PFF, he put out a list on Twitter of some free agents that are still available and where the best fit for those players would be. And he mentioned Dalton Risner would be the best landing spot, would be the Saints. And that's pretty interesting because the Saints, if you ask me, could use a little depth and use maybe an upgrade at the offensive guard position. So let's take a look at what Dalton Risner was able to do last year on 967 snaps. His overall PFF grade, 61.1, 72.6 as a pass blocking grade. In terms of run blocking, not as good as a pass blocker, 53.4. He also allowed 3 sacks. So how he would fit in to the depth chart. Here's how it stands right now. I think that if you were to go sign Dalton Risner, you bump down Andrews Pete, and he takes over. I think Cesar Ruiz showed a lot of promise last year. I think he showed a lot of growth and big steps in terms of what he was able to do. I also wouldn't hate, having him replace Cesar Ruiz if Andrews Pete is healthy and he can play. It's just, I wanted to show you the depth chart so you could see it is a need. It's not a major need, but it's a need nonetheless. And I wanted to show you guys this graphic too. So in terms of what the overall PFF grade is for each of the starting 5 offensive linemen for the Saints, don't forget, Dalton Risner's overall PFF grade is a 61.1, which is better than Andrews Pete and Cesar Ruiz. So I think that at offensive guard, it is an upgrade. I think that it could be an interesting thing to add to the Saints. Trevor Penning, 73.6, obviously had very limited snaps due to the injuries he was facing last year. Eric McCoy, 61.2, 798 snaps. I wanted to include the snap count because I'm about to get to that point, but Andrews Pete, 573 snaps, missed a lot of time due to injury. Cesar Ruiz, 56.6, 868 snaps. Played decent, could have played more if you ask me, but I think we got good production and good usage out of him last year. And then Ryan Ramczyk, the GOAT, 77.9. He's great. He's a phenomenal football player. Nothing's got to be changed over there. But in my personal opinion, you can be as talented as you want. You can have all the skill in the world. You can be one of the best football players out there. And I'm just going to use Teron Armstead as an example. The best ability is availability. And Dalton Risner has only missed 2 games in 4 seasons with Denver. Now, if we remember, Cesar Ruiz, Andrews Pete, they miss a lot of time, especially Andrews Pete. He misses a lot of time due to injury. So, in my opinion, I think Dalton Risner should be explored. I like the idea of it. And there is, the whole thing that happened with Brett Rippon with last year where they got into it on the sideline because somebody was talking and he was trying to defend Russell Wilson and all that, this, that, and the other. I don't really know. I'm honestly, if you were a part of the Broncos organization, wouldn't you be trying to fight everyone as well? That's, I would. That's personally me, though. But, guys, this show is not about me. It's all about you, the Who Dat Nation. So you tell me, should the Saints go and sign Dalton Risner? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. This is the pinned comment. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, don't click out of the video. Scroll down. Give us your answer. Share your thoughts. Hit the like button also. Scroll back up, and by the time you're done with that, we'll be playing the video again. All right, so let's discuss Dion Jones. So he's a linebacker that, let's call it how it is, for a good amount of time, he was a little bit of a pain in the ass for the Saints offense. I mean, I'm not saying that the Saints had a struggle against the Falcons defense. Obviously, look at the stats, look at the records and everything, but Dion Jones is a good football player, and he's still available. He was a second-round draft pick in 2016 for the Falcons out of LSU. And the former Tiger, he had good production, but it's slightly dipped. However, he's still fast and still so good in coverage. And my guy, producer Seatman, and I, we were going through the script and we were talking, man, do you remember using Dion Jones in Madden? Because he was just cold and it was a good time using him. I had him on my ultimate team, and if you didn't, my ultimate team was probably better than yours. But he did meet with the New York Giants earlier this week or last week. He's met with the Giants. He hasn't had a ton of buzz around his name recently, but this might be why. So in terms of the last 4 seasons, last year he played 11 games with the Cleveland Browns. 44 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, an interception, and 2.5 sacks. And then in terms of what he was able to do for the Falcons, 137 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. 2020, he 106, 9 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 4.5 sacks. 110, 8 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 1 interception, no sacks. The number I like on this, there's a lot of tackles, and I want the Saints to not miss very many tackles. So I think Dion Jones could be could assist that. Plus, this depth chart, it's good. That's that. It's good, not great. Pete Werner, when he's healthy, man, he is all pro. He is a phenomenal linebacker, but he's gotten hurt every single year. Demario Davis, he's amazing, but he's not getting any younger. And I'm not saying he would be a Demario Davis replacement, but Zach Bond, I mean, hasn't quite lived up to the expectations of what Saints fans wanted. Now, you did re-sign Andrew Dowell. You have DeMarco Jackson. You have Ty Summers. You have some pieces in there. But even Dennis Allen said, we want to add to the linebacker group because they feel as if that group needs to be better or get improved, as well as the defensive line. So in terms of going and drafting a linebacker, if you don't want to go and sign Dion Jones, I've shown this list before, and I'll show it again, and I'm going to get the pronunciation right on Henry Toto. Got it. Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson. Pretty good football player. I like what he's able to do. Nolan Smith out of Georgia. The Dogs have the best defense in all of college football. I know that LSU fans, and I know that me as an Arkansas fan, I don't like to watching it, but you have to call it how it is. They're a damn good football team. Henry Toto out of Alabama, phenomenal linebacker. Drew Sanders, that's my boy. That's my dog. I love Drew Sanders. If on draft day I got a notification or we're live or whatever's happened and I see Drew Sanders as a Saint, I would cry real man tears. And then Dion Henley, Washington State linebacker. These are just 5 linebackers I think the Saints could go and draft. So let me know. What say you, Who Dat Nation? What should the Saints do here? Should they go and sign Dion Jones, or should they go draft a linebacker? Because, again, like I said earlier, Dennis Allen believes that the Saints need to add to the to the linebacker group. I believe that, and I'm sure you at home also believe that. So let me know. Type S for sign Dion Jones, type D for draft a linebacker. And if you want to shout out what linebacker you would draft to, bonus points if you do that. You get some extra brownie points. All right, so let's talk about ESPN and an article that they put out addressing some draft needs for the Saints. So these are the 5 needs that they listed for the Saints, and I don't necessarily know if I agree with it entirely. Defensive end, I agree with it. Defensive tackle, I agree with it. Wide receiver, I agree. I'm sorry, but I agree. Tight end, yes. Cornerback, no. I mean, yeah, you could use some depth, but I'm not prioritizing cornerback. I would prioritize safety over cornerback if I'm going for a DB. Tight end, wide receiver, I think tight end over wide receiver, but in terms of getting quality young depth at the wide receiver position, I think my personal philosophy is you draft at least 1 wide receiver every year just because you get new legs in, fresh legs, fresh talent in. That's just a me kind of thing, and I just feel like that might make sense. But here's what Matt Miller of ESPN said on the Saints draft needs. He said, signing quarterback Derek Carr filled the biggest hole on the roster, but there's still some work to be done. Michael Thomas is returning after essentially being 2 years away from the game and is now 30 years old. So wide receiver could be a target at the end of round 1. I'd more so go round 2 or 3 there, honestly. That's just me, though. Defensive line is an area to improve on, too, with Marcus Davenport leaving in free agency without a replacement on the roster after adding defensive tackles through free agency. That's more of a depth need, but still something to address. And tight end and cornerback might be day 3 fit. So before I kind of break down some, draft targets, I came up with a list of each of the draft needs that the ESPN listed for us. I want you to just weigh in real quick. Do you agree with the ESPN draft needs? Type A for agree or type F for these guys are a bunch of frauds. They don't watch Saints football, and it shows. They have no idea what they're talking about. I'm going to probably type my F in the comment section. I agree with one of them, but I guess day 3 picks, wide receiver, tight end, stuff, but cornerback, I don't know, man. I'm typing their F. They're a bunch of frauds over at ESPN. They're not doing what we're doing here at Chat Sports. So let's break down the defensive line draft targets that I cooked up for the Saints. Jalen Carter, that's my number 1 if you can get him. If he falls out of the top 10, I would not be surprised if Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, and the rest of the Saints front office aren't putting in phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call to move up, because the Saints, as we know, have a very long history of moving up in the NFL draft to go get a player they want. And Jalen Carter, if all the legal stuff checks out, if everything is good to go there, top-tier talent, hard to beat it. Kalijah Kancey, we've talked a lot about him. He's Aaron Donald 2.0. I would love to see him in the black and gold. Plus, I don't think you have to move up for him. Will McDonald, edge rusher out of Iowa State. He's a quality player. I like what Will McDonald was able to do for the Cyclones because he was a phenomenal football player. I think that he could be a solid addition to the Saints defensive line, especially helping out Cameron Jordan because he's not getting any younger. Will McDonald is great production, freaky tools, the bend is there, and he has great speed and arm length. So that's somebody I like. BJ Ojulari, the LSU Tiger. I know all of y'all are going to like this kid. He's athletic. He plays above his size, especially in the run game. He is able to he has a good amount of batch moves. He has finesse ones, and oh my God, his ghost move is just incredible. He uses that ghost move to defeat the outside hand during his rush, which I love. Lucas Van Ness, the Iowa product, the edge rusher, also a solid player that I think the Saints could get good production out of, but I would rather go BJ Ojulari over Lucas Van Ness. That's just me. I think that, keep the LSU kid in time. That'd be fun. All right, let's talk wide receiver. I don't think it's a major need, but I think it's a need nonetheless. So Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. Fast, very fast, great at contested catches, 60% contested catch rate. He has 20 catches over 20-plus yards, which led the nation. I think that he would be an interesting guy to bring in from the Volunteers. Plus, like we mentioned yesterday, the Tennessee Volunteers, New Orleans Saints pipeline, it goes very, very deep. And then Quentin Johnston. I like Quentin Johnston. He was a big reason why the Horned Frogs were able to make it to the national championship. 8.9 yards after catch, which is awesome. And he had 19 missed tackles. Impressive stuff from the Horned Frog. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Could you imagine teaming up Jackson Smith and Jigba and Chris Olave again? I mean, JSN put up over 1,000 yards when he had Garrett Wilson and Olave in the same wide receiver room. He's good at football. Let's move to tight end, though. Michael Mayer. He is the tight end out of Notre Dame, and I think that he is probably a guy, if you don't get him in the first round, you're not getting him at all, and you would have to draft him in the first round. For me personally, I wouldn't do it. I think that there's bigger needs like the defensive line. He's a special product out of Notre Dame. The best play was just F it. Michael Mayer's down there somewhere. Get him the ball. Darnell Washington, a massive human being. Incredible speed. Physical. Amazing football player. The production, the stats are kind of off, but people forget Brock Bowers was on the roster for the Bulldogs. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end of Utah. He's one of the top tight ends as well in this draft. Joey Porter Jr., the Saints actually have a meeting scheduled with Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback out of Penn State. I think it could be an interesting move. I know that a lot of teams need a cornerback, so I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't available for the Saints at 29 overall, but Emmanuel Forbes or Keely Ringo could be available there for you. I like Forbes, but I love Keely Ringo. I think that Ringo is one of those players that is a special talent. He's not great, but he's not a bad tackler. He had about 6 tackles mixed this year, but you have to love the size and the speed combo. It is truly fascinating, and he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, and I think that he's pretty solid. 196 special team snaps in 2 years, so you could get a lot of versatile different types of production out of Ringo. So let me know, Who Dat Nation. I just threw out a bunch of draft names for you guys, a bunch of draft targets. Who do you want the Saints to draft in round 1? Let me know in the comment section, Who Dat Nation. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter weekend. Keep your notifications on because we're going to be having an at-home video throughout the weekend. But y'all stay golden. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you next time.